Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll give you a minute to get your file. You can state your name for the record, please, sir.
Good morning. My name Shiping Bao. S-H-I-P-I-N-G-B-A-O.
What is your occupation, sir?
I'm the Associate Medical Examiner in Volusia and Seminole counties.
And if you could just briefly tell us about your specialty, what area of practice you have, and your education background, training.
I received my medical degree in China, came to the United States in 1992 when I was 29 years old to pursue American dream. I did my pathology training in Birmingham, Alabama, and finished my forensic pathology fellowship in Fort Worth, Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office. After that, I was Deputy Medical Examiner in Tarrant County, Texas for 2 years before came to Florida. I am certified by American Board of Pathology in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology. I have medical licenses in the states of Florida and Texas. I am the fellow member of the National Association of Medical Examiners.
Okay. Dr. Bao, if we could, please explain to the jury when we talk about forensic pathology what that means.
As a medical examiner in forensic pathology, I review medical records and reports from our investigators and police department, and do autopsies to determine the cause and the manner of death. Also, I serve as the fact witness and expert witness in the court, such as today.
Okay. And how long have you been with your current position at the medical examiner's office in, I guess, the 7th Circuit? Is it Volusia and Seminole counties?
Yes. Our office covers both Volusia County and Seminole counties.
Okay. Can you briefly explain to the jury what an autopsy is?
Autopsy means to see for self. It is the postmortem examination of human body to determine the cause and the manner of death.
Okay.
The cause of death is either an injury or disease. Injuries such as gunshot wound to the head, stab wound to the chest, or blunt force trauma due to motor vehicle accident. Disease such as heart disease, cancer, or stroke. The manner of death is classified into five categories. Homicide, one person killed by another, such as in this case, Trayvon was killed by another person. Suicide, one killed him or herself. Accident, such as motor vehicle accident, drowning. Natural, such as heart disease or stroke. If we do not have enough evidence to determine the manner of death, we call undetermined. Autopsy includes the identification of human body, external and internal examinations to record the disease, injury, and other evidence, plus toxicology tests.
Okay. Dr. Bao, if we could, approximately how many autopsies have you performed in your career, sir?
So far, I have done more than 3,000 autopsies, in which about 150 to 200 homicides.
Okay.
I did about 20 court testimonies or depositions. In the last 5 years, I have done about 300 to 700 cases a year.
Okay. And you, as you stated, you previously testified in Florida as an expert, is that correct?
Yes, both
This time I tended the
Texas
witness.
and Florida.
This time I tended the witness as an expert in forensic pathology.
You may so testify.
I don't have any voir dire.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Ballard, we can move into what you did in this particular case, that you perform an autopsy on a person later identified to you as Trayvon Martin under your medical examiner number 12-24-043.
Yes.
And where was the autopsy performed, Dr. Ballard?
Where? Or
Yes,
when?
sir.
Yeah, we did autopsy on February 27th, 2012. I started autopsy at 10:30 p.m. After autopsy, I typed autopsy report, start from 4:06 p.m. I finished my autopsy report at 5:10 p.m. same day.
And was that done at the medical examiner's office in Volusia County?
Yes, in Daytona Beach.
Did you determine the cause of death, sir?
Yes.
And what was the cause of death?
The cause of death is gunshot wound of chest.
Okay. And what was the manner of death, sir?
The manner of death is homicide, meaning he was killed by another person.
Okay. If you could, tell us what Trayvon Martin's height and weight was, sir. What was his height?
I would like to present the jury how I did the autopsy from the
Okay, yeah,
morning.
please.
Trayvon Martin came to my office as unidentified human body. He was not identified at the time. All we know, he was a black boy. He was shot. He's dead. There is no name, no age. The first in the morning, we did an X-ray, tried to locate the bullets or fragments of bullet. We found out he had some fragments at the lower chest. His body was sealed in a plastic bag with number 0000517. After we look at X-ray, so we opened the bag. We saw a black boy, 71 inches long, 158 pounds. He had a defect, a hole on the anterior sweatshirt with blood. Under the sweatshirt, there was another t-shirt. Again, there was blood, a defect, and a soot, S-O-O-T, soot. After we removed the clothes, we saw a defect on his left lower chest, 3/8 inch diameter, round, with soot, S-O-O-T, with ring abrasion around wound with stippling, also called powder tattooing. After we removed the skin, there was defect between left anterior number 5 and number 6 ribs. So the bullet went through directly from anterior to posterior through anterior pericardial sac, which is fibrous tissue around the heart, through right ventricle of the heart, anterior right ventricle of the heart, through posterior right ventricle of the heart, through posterior pericardial sac. At that point, the bullet separated. The lead core of the bullet was recovered in the pericardial sac behind right ventricle. The two fragments of the jacket went right through his right lower lobe of the lung. We have 3 lobes on the right, 2 lobes on the right. The bullet went through the right lower lobe of the lung. The 2 fragments was recovered in the right pleural cavity. At that time, at that point, Trayvon Martin, I believe, was still alive. His heart was still beating. Every time his heart was beating, some of the blood will go from right ventricle to the pulmonary artery to the lung and supply his brain. I believe, it is my opinion, that he was still alive, he was still in pain, he was still in suffering.
Objection, Your Honor. That's not a relevant issue at this time.
It's
It's
relevant.
simply an emotional appeal.
Just a second, I'm sorry, your objection is relevance? Okay,
That's
overruled.
He's in suffering, he's in pain.
Well, then I would object to speculation then.
No, it's
And
not.
it's not-
not
Wait,
a
wait.
speculation.
And it's
When there's
not,
an objection, I have to rule on it. Okay, so please, just wait. If counsel will please approach.
sure.
So if you'll just wait a moment. Okay, the objection is sustained. You may proceed.
Dr. Bell, I'm going to ask you questions and just answer my questions if you could, okay?
Okay.
Let's go back to, you mentioned the autopsy. You determined Trayvon Martin's height and weight. Did you say he was 5'11" and 158 pounds? Is that correct?
Yes, in my autopsy report is 71 inches, which is 5 feet and 11 inches.
Okay. And when you say he's 5'11" or 71 inches, is there actually a measurement? Is the body put on a table and there's
Yeah.
actually something that measures it?
It's a length. We measure the body in length because the dead man cannot stand. It's
Okay.
not height.
Okay, so in other words, a body after the person dies does not grow or anything, or does not shrink. It just stays the same?
Yes,
Okay. Now, did you determine his age as being 17 years old, sir?
one day after autopsy, he was identified by his father. At that point, February 28th, 2012.
And so he was 17
identified.
years old?
Yes,
Okay. And was his date of birth that you determined was February the 5th of 1995?
yes, February 5th, 1995.
Okay. Dr. Bao, I'm going to show you some photographs, and before I get to this, you briefly mentioned, does your office have a medical examiner investigator go out to the actual scene where the shooting is?
Yes,
Okay, and did one go in this case?
yes,
Okay. And does the investigator make sure that the body is sealed in a bag that we're going to show photographs of?
yes,
Okay. And when you perform the autopsy, do you have assistants helping you? Specifically,
Yes.
in this case, 2 assistants.
I have 2 assistants.
Okay. And in terms of the autopsy that you're going to talk about, the assistants work under your supervision and they're all in the same area as you?
Yes,
Okay. And are photographs taken to document the relevant evidence that you will be talking to the jury about?
yes,
Okay. All right, let's go, if we could, Dr. Bao, I'm going to show you State Exhibit 81. Do you recognize that photograph, sir?
yes.
And what is that a photograph of, sir?
Can I have something to point to?
Oh, I apologize.
jury?
We need a pointer. Thank you, Mr. Guy. It's a little button right here. Map person, witness, Your Honor. Right here.
This is a photo.
I'm sorry to interrupt. May I have the physical exhibit so that I can follow along with what's coming? Are these all in evidence already?
I apologize.
I'll
The
be-
photos, are
Yeah,
they?
they're in evidence.
Yes, and so that there may
They're
be...
right there if you would like to look through them, or keep them at your desk as long as the clerk gets them back.
As the court's aware, we tried to expedite things by
I don't need to
pre-marking.
speak, if you need those, you can just look through and take them back to the,
Should be 81 through 108.
okay? You're welcome.
You need more time? State's Exhibit 181, I'm sorry, 81, I apologize. Do you recognize that? And tell us what that photograph depicts.
Okay, this is a photo of plastic bag carried Trayvon Martin.
Okay. And would this be
H
the
means
head part up over
the
here?
head. 12 means 2012, year of 2012. 24 means Seminole County. 043 means this is 43 cases from the year.
Okay.
150 pound.
Okay. All right. Let me show you State's Exhibit 82. What is this part of the, what does this photograph show?
Okay, this one shows black male, case number, unidentified, number 3. This is again the case number. This is F, feet.
Okay. And then State's Exhibit 83, is that a,
This is another view of this body bag,
okay?
feet, and the case number.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 84, what does that photograph show, sir?
This is seal, VCME, Volusia County Medical Examiner. Seal number 0000517. This is case number. Nobody can open the bag before me look at it.
Okay. So in other words, when the bag comes, let me go back a second to 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. The bag itself is sealed where the body is, Trayvon bodies is sealed in that container. It comes to your office, and you all actually cut that or open that up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me show you State Exhibit 99. You previously talked about an x-ray. Tell us, when you said x-ray, is that x-ray taken before the body is removed from the bag?
No, before the body was removed from the bag, we took the x-ray, tried to locate the bullet or fragments.
Okay.
This is one of them. This is spine, is right. There is a fragment in the area of the heart.
Okay.
There are two fragments in the area of the right lung. This is another view of X-ray spine. It's the stomach, the colon, arm is right. Again, you can see this lead core in the area of the heart, and two more fragments of jacket in the area of the lung.
When the body comes to you, Dr. Val, is this a photograph showing how the body is exactly in terms of clothing that Trayvon Martin was wearing, State's Exhibit 85?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the first photo we took, case number, the defect on the sweatshirt with some debris, and this is blue plastic bag.
Okay. And when you keep referring to defect, you're talking about what ends up killing him in terms of the gunshot wound. This is showing of the shirt, the hole.
Yeah, defect, the street name means the hole.
Okay. State's Exhibit 86. What does that photograph show, Dr. Val?
This is another view of his body, the defect here, case number, his hand, and two legs.
So at this point, you're trying to photograph, just showing the legs or part of the leg, is that correct?
Yeah, normally we use 3 photos to cover the whole body.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 87, does that show well, tell us what it shows, sorry.
Okay, this is another view of Trayvon Martin, case number, and his shoes and the pants.
State's Exhibit 101, and I guess I apologize, after the body comes in, are the clothing then removed and you observe that and then you go to the body itself?
Yes.
Okay. State's Exhibit 101, what does that photograph show?
This is sweatshirt, the hoodie sweatshirt. The orange marker point to the defect on the left chest. Again, case number.
Okay. State's Exhibit 102, is that a close-up of what you refer to as a defect or the hole that caused the gunshot wound?
Yes, caused by gunshot wound.
Okay. State's Exhibit 103, what does that photograph show?
This is the back view of hoodie sweatshirt. Appears to be wet.
Okay. State's Exhibit 104, what does that photograph show, Dr. Bowell?
This is another sweatshirt under the hoodie sweatshirt. You see this, the blood, the defect, the marker.
Okay.
This, the black, appears to be soot, S-O-O-T, soot.
Okay.
Again, we have case number.
All right. And Dr. Bowell, just to make sure that the jury understands, State's Exhibit, I'm going back to State's Exhibit 85, was that sweatshirt that we just talked about underneath this hoodie or hoodie
Yes.
sweatshirt?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 104, is that the front part of that sweatshirt?
Yes.
Okay. State's Exhibit 105, what does that photograph show, sir?
This just a close-up of previous one. Again, this we can see better. The defect, the blood, and the soot, which is burned powder from the gun.
State's Exhibit 106, what does that photograph show, Dr. Bowell?
This is the back view of shirt. There is no defect, which means there is no exit wound.
Stage Exhibit 107, what does that photograph show?
This is the pants. Appears to be wet and some debris.
Okay. And is that the front part of the
Yeah,
pants?
front view.
Okay. Stage Exhibit 108, what does that show?
It's the back view of the pants.
Stage Exhibit 88, what does that photograph show, Dr. Bao?
This is Trayvon Martin, 17 years old.
Okay. And is that a photograph just showing the upper part of his body?
Yeah, normally we have 3 photos. This photo show from the head to the abdomen.
Okay.
There is
And
a
obviously,
defect.
this right here is just for the photography purposes, been blacked out, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
there is a defect, left lower chest. Other than that, Trayvon Martin was healthy. There is no disease, no injury. Other injury, other than gunshot wound.
Okay. And you stated, I believe, he weighed 158 pounds, is that correct?
Yes, we weigh by ourselves.
Okay. Stage Exhibit 89, what does that photograph
This
show?
is another view of Trayvon Martin from the chest to the knee.
Okay.
Again, we can show the defect. Other than this defect, there is no disease, there is no injury.
Okay. While we have this photograph here, Dr. Bao, I'm going to circle the hands. Did you make observations as to the hands, sir?
Yes,
Okay. Did you observe any blood? And we're going to talk about an injury that you're going to talk about in the left hand. But other than that, did you observe any blood on the hands?
yeah, other than some small aberrations on left fifth finger and the left fourth finger. There is no other injury, no other disease.
Okay. And did you observe any blood on the hands at all?
No.
Stage Exhibit 90, what does that photograph
This
show?
is a view of Trayvon Martin from the thigh to the feet. Again, there is no disease, no injury.
Dr. Bao, Stage Exhibit 91, what does that photograph show?
This is the back view of Trayvon Martin from the head to this area. There is no disease, there is no injury.
Stage Exhibit 92, what does that photograph show, Dr. Bao?
This is another view of Trayvon Martin's back. There is no disease, there is no injury.
Okay. And Stage Exhibit 93, what does that photograph show, Dr. Bao?
This is the third view of Trayvon Martin's back from the thigh to the feet. Again, there is no disease, there is no injury.
Dr. Bao, I'm now showing you Stage Exhibit 94. What does that photograph show, sir?
This photograph shows the defect on the left lower chest.
Okay. And is there
3/8 inch.
I apologize, go ahead.
3/8 inch diameter.
I'm sorry.
3/8 inch diameter round defect. We can use the close-up one.
Yes, sir, I'm coming to that one yet. But before I get into that, you have a measuring thing just to show where the injury is so that people can see it, and also
Yeah.
the measurement itself.
This one has both the scale and the case number.
Okay. Let me show you Stage Exhibit 95. Tell us what Stage Exhibit 95, what that photograph shows, Dr. Bao.
This photograph shows the defect with ring aberration around the defect, which consistent with entrance wound. Also, we can see the soot, S-O-O-T, and a 2x2 inch area of stippling, also called powder tattooing, which is punctuating aberrations caused by unburned powder from the gun.
And Dr. Bao, how can you positively say that what I'm circling right here is the entrance wound, the gunshot wound? How can you say that's the entrance wound?
Because the entrance wound is different from exit wound. Exit wound normally elongated, and normally there is no soot, no stippling. This case is one of the easiest case in my office. There is no exit wound, has to be entrance wound.
So, in other words, you find the fragments or the bullet inside his body and there's no exit.
Yeah, I have 100% confidence. I look at this wound, I can make judgment. This is entrance wound of intermediate range in first 3 seconds.
Intermediate range
In first 3 seconds when I look at this wound with 100% confidence.
And Dr. Bao, I believe that's even a closer up of that gunshot wound, I'm sorry, State's Exhibit 96. Tell us if you can, you got the green marker, go ahead and tell us.
This is the fat, adipose fat tissue under the skin. Again, this is entrance wound with stippling and soot, consistent with entrance wound.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you in a few minutes about the soot, but is this what you're talking about when you say soot or stippling?
The black one, okay. The black one, these are soot.
Okay.
These punctuating aberrations are stippling.
And is that from the shooting of the gun in terms
Yes.
of the bullet? Okay.
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 97, what does that photograph show?
This is superficial aberration caused by blunt force trauma, 1/4 by 1/8 inch aberration on left fourth finger.
And did you also find something on the pinky
there are
finger or
two
the fifth?
very small. I even cannot use ruler to measure them. Two of them much less than 1/16 inch. Two small aberrations on left fifth finger.
Other than the gunshot wound that you've talked about, which I'm going back for the record, State's Exhibit number 96, and State's Exhibit number 97, the injuries that you described to the left, I believe, is this the left hand, by the way?
Yes, left hand.
Okay. Did you find any other injury in any other part of his body? In other words, did you find any injuries to his right hand at all?
No.
And I'm going to, State's Exhibit 100, is this what you ended up recovering from the body, sir?
This is lead core from bullet. I recovered this one in the pericardial sac behind right ventricle of the heart.
Okay.
These two are fragments of jacket was recovered in the right pleural cavity behind right lower lobe of the lung.
Okay. Let me go back to State's Exhibit number 96 or 95 for context. Tell us, if you could, Dr. Bao, when that bullet entered the chest of Trayvon Martin, what happened? How did he die?
Okay.
If you could, just tell the jury.
The bullet went straight, directly from the front to the back, with perforations of anterior wall of the space between fifth and sixth ribs. The bullet went through the pericardial sac, went through right ventricle of the heart, went through the posterior wall of right ventricle of the heart. We recovered 1,700 milliliters of blood in the right pleural cavity, 1,000 milliliters of blood in the left pleural cavity. I believe he was alive for 1 to 10 minutes after he was shot. His heart was beating until there was no blood left. At the point, holes on the right ventricle of the heart. There is no chance he can survive. No chance, zero.
And if you could, in terms of the track of the bullet, does it come straight or is it at an angle either going up or down on the body? And I know you'd have to look at the body anatomically correct, but
in my opinion, it's straight from the front to the back.
so it's a straight shot right into the heart, basically.
Yes.
You mentioned already, and I want you to, if you could, explain to the jury when you say stippling and soot, what you mean. And I've progressed to State's Exhibit number 96, going back to that. If you could, explain it, if you could, what we mean by stippling and soot, what we mean by that.
The meaning of soot and stippling, so we can make a diagnosis of intermediate range. In my autopsy report, I give 3 ranges of shooting: contact, intermediate, and
Literally, when you say contact,
indeterminate.
the muzzle. Okay. Let's talk about contact would be what? Literally, when you say contact, the muzzle of the gun is right on the skin itself?
Contact is complete. Contact entrance wound is complete from this one. In my office, contact entrance wound is complete different from this.
Okay, so this is
Intermediate
not a
range.
contact wound to the
Yes.
skin itself.
Yeah, I look at contact entrance wound almost every day in my office. If it's contact, there will be skin laceration. If there is close, in this case, will be imprint 100% confidence. This is intermediate range of shooting.
Okay, and when you say intermediate range, what is that range? Are you able to determine or give your opinion as to what the range could be?
By definition,
Yes, sir.
intermediate range is when you see the stippling. So if you see the stippling, is intermediate range. If it's intermediate range, you need to see the stippling.
Okay. And in terms of the range, what would be the range that you would opine is consistent with this, sir?
I look at many books. I try to find out what's the range for intermediate range.
And is that .4?
First, I need to explain to the jury.
Yeah, please explain to the jury.
The range of shooting is my opinion, not the fact. The fact is there is defect on the chest, there is soot, there is stippling. Use this fact, I have my opinion. The fact is different from opinion. For the fact, there is no right or wrong, just truth or false.
I object to the witness's characterization of facts versus opinion.
Yeah,
I'll be glad to read. Let me ask you a question specifically. I'll be glad to read.
the fact opinion is very important
Okay.
in the justice system.
Hold on, Dr. Bowell.
You have to go ahead and let Mr. De La Rionda ask the question, sir.
Okay. Let me just ask you a question.
Yes.
There are different ranges in terms of, you mentioned contact, and then there's intermediate, and is that range from .4 inches to up to 4 feet?
Yes.
Okay,
I
and
look
then
at
there's
many
even longer
books.
than that.
The closest in the book
Okay,
is
and I'm going to ask you about the close in a minute.
the range is not the fact,
I
it's
object.
opinion.
Not responsive.
Mr. Bow, you're going to have to wait for Mr. De La Rionda to ask you a question and then provide the answer. Thank you. Go ahead.
Dr. Bowell, and we're going to get into, but assuming there was no close, then you have the intermediate range, which is .4 inches to up to 4 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, I did not measure them.
Okay. All right.
All I have is from the book.
Yes, sir.
It's my opinion.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to get into your opinion explaining to the jury.
Yeah,
but
yeah, very important.
Yes, sir. Did you determine that since he was wearing clothes, this would be called an what's the word?
Intermediate or intermediary target. Okay, there are 2 different terms.
Tell us about those if you could.
Okay. Intermediary target, INTERMEDIARY. Intermediary target means the object between the bullet and the target, including the clothing, materials in the pocket. In other case, could be car windows, could be arms. When you have intermediary target, it is more difficult to determine the range of shooting.
So in this case, you had clothing.
Yes,
You had 2 sweatshirts that were acting as that, correct?
yes.
Okay. And does that help you account why you're saying in terms of the range that served as an in-between the bullet, or the muzzle of the gun and the skin, is that correct?
No,
The clothing,
no, it's different.
tell me what the effect the clothing had.
The clothing will block some soot and some material from the gunshot. I want to explain to you how I did this autopsy, how I determine the range.
Yes, sir. Please explain to the jury.
The intermediate range, when I say intermediate range, is by definition. It's not by measurement. There is no fact, just opinion.
Sure. So you're just going on what is classified as intermediate, what that means.
Yeah, by definition of intermediate range.
You're not actually there measuring or anything like that.
Nobody can use the eye to determine the range.
Okay.
There is no such thing.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the clothing as serving as some barrier between the muzzle of the gun and the body itself. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, based on your examination of the clothing and then also the body, do you believe there was some contact with the clothing by the muzzle of the gun?
I believe there is loose contact. Loose, L-O-O-S-E.
Okay.
Because-
Tell us about that.
Yeah, the contact including loose contact and hard contact, H-A-R-D. If it was hard contact, I would see the imprint of fiber of the clothes over here. So I did not see that. So I believe this is loose contact to the clothes, which cause the stippling pattern on the skin.
Okay. And can you determine how loose it was other than it was just loose? Can you say how loose it was?
I don't know, just
Okay.
loose contact.
Okay. Now, how about the fact that you had two sweatshirts? What's been referred to as the hoodie and then underneath another sweatshirt. Does that add an additional barrier, I guess, in terms of loose?
I cannot tell.
Okay. I want to talk about the position of the body when shot.
Okay.
You know, in the movies and on TV, they say, oh, we can tell you exactly how it happened. Are you able, based on the autopsy, able to say exactly the position that Trayvon Martin was in terms of whether he was standing up, sitting down, lying down, on top of somebody, below somebody? Are you able to say unequivocally position of the body when it was shot, when he was shot?
I have no fact. I have zero opinion.
Okay. Or can you say unequivocally that he was shot from the front? In other words, that the gun was in front of him when he was shot?
Yes, I do know that.
Okay. Is there any dispute about that?
No.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about how long Trayvon Martin was possibly alive. In terms of, you've already opined about that, but I want to explore that a little bit more by some questions. In terms of, thank you, Your Honor. In terms of, is death immediate? And I want to talk about whether he went unconscious or not. Do you understand?
Okay.
My question is, would he have been conscious at least for a few minutes, based on your opinion of
Okay.
the
First,
autopsy?
I need to explain to the jury how I have the opinion. Opinion is based on the fact and my lifetime learning experience.
You're talking about other autopsies you've done in your
Yes.
life? Okay.
I believe Trayvon Martin was alive for 1 to 10 minutes after he was shot.
And so you're going to give a range in terms of possibly the longest, is that
Yeah,
correct?
I give the error of a margin of error.
Okay.
The reason I give 10 minutes because just 3 weeks ago, when you
Dr.
are,
Bao, let me stop you. They don't need to know about your other, but you've got some prior cases that you've dealt with.
yes,
Okay, we'll leave it at that. That's fine.
okay, because that's the
You're
opinion.
talking about your
came
opinion
from-
is based on your
Yeah.
experience.
Yes,
Okay. We just can't get into specifics, but the jury understands that. Let me ask you another question about
Okay.
that. Are you saying that his brain is still technically alive, in other words?
Yes.
Okay. That's what you mean by he's still alive in terms of conscious. His brain is still alive.
yes,
Okay. He can still feel pain, in other words.
yes.
Okay. And are you saying that he could move or he couldn't, in terms of, can you say one way or the other?
From my experience, another autopsy we did 3 weeks ago, I don't believe he can move
Okay.
after shot.
Okay. All right. Let me go to the bullet fragments that you've talked about already, and Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Oh, sure. That's all right with the court. Judge, she needs to change paper.
Yes, you may.
Dr. Bao, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 165. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
And what is State's Exhibit 165?
Yeah, we recovered the fragments of bullet from Trayvon's body, the lead core, and the fragments of jacket.
So that is all in one exhibit, is that correct?
Yes, all
Okay.
together.
Your Honor, may I publish that to the jury?
Yes, you may.
Dr. Bao, I'm going back to State's Exhibit 89, and you mentioned the hands, and you mentioned an abrasion on his left hand, but I want to ask you specifically about State's Exhibit 89. When you did the autopsy and observed the hands, other than the abrasions that we're going to talk about, did you observe any blood on his hands?
No.
Did you observe any other injury to his hands other than the one that's documented?
No.
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
If you had observed other injuries to his hands, would you have taken photograph of those injuries?
Yes, I should.
I'm going now to State's Exhibit number 97, and I'm going to ask you about what's depicted in that photograph. If you could tell us about this right here that I'm circling right here. When you said abrasion, what do you mean by that?
It's a superficial injury from blunt force trauma. This injury, in my opinion, could have happened before Trayvon Martin met George Zimmerman. Could have happened during the physical.
It's not responsive to a question. This is, again, a narrative.
Overruled, but go ahead now and ask your next question.
My question is, are you able to say when this occurred? And tell us in terms of what you mean, when this occurred, when this injury could have occurred.
It could have occurred 2 hours before he died. Could have happened right after shooting on the way down to the ground. Could have happened during the physical struggle.
Okay. So it could have happened 2 hours before he even came into contact with the person who shot him. Could have happened during the shooting, and then even after he was shot, he fell to the ground?
Yes.
Okay. If you could tell us, State Exhibit number 97, the size of this abrasion.
1/4 by 1/8.
Okay. And when we say abrasion, can you compare that to other types of injuries to the skin in terms of contusions or lacerations? Can you tell us what you mean by abrasion versus the other two?
Yeah, there are three types of blunt force trauma. First, superficial injury of the skin, we call abrasion. Second, laceration means there is a break of the skin, which causes the bleeding. Third is a contusion, means skin is still intact, but there is hemorrhage under the skin. So abrasion, laceration, contusion.
And so you're getting from less severe to more severe, is
Yes,
that correct?
yes.
And so the abrasion would be the least severe, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't have any evidence of contusion to this finger right here, or did you have any evidence of
No.
contusion? Okay, and you mentioned there was something on his, I guess, the fifth finger or the pinky of his left hand.
Yeah,
Tell us,
this-
am I circling it right there?
Yes, these two small abrasions, just too small. I have no opinion.
And would this abrasion cause bleeding? In other words, would you expect bleeding to occur from that abrasion?
The blood still inside.
I'm sorry.
The blood still in the capillary. That's why we see this red
Okay.
stuff.
So would this be classified like a scratch to the skin?
Yes.
Dr. Bao, as part of your autopsy, did you also, I apologize, Your Honor, we don't need the light back on. Thank you. May I approach the witness again, Your Honor? Dr. Bao, as part of the autopsy, did you do what's referred to as fingernail scrapings?
Yes.
Okay. Let me show you
The
State's
technician
Exhibit.
did. I did not do that. But
One of
I
the
was in the
persons under
room.
you?
Yes.
Okay. State's Exhibit 191, do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
And are those the two, I'm going to call them as little sticks, but I don't know
Okay.
what you referred to them
Yeah.
as. Are those each used, one for the right hand and one for the left hand?
Yes.
And what is done, is the stick actually go underneath the fingernail on
Yeah.
like the right and then the left?
Every fingers.
Okay. Also, as part of the autopsy is DNA or a blood card taken from the Trayvon Martin's body, specifically State's Exhibit 186.
Yes.
Okay. And finally, sir, let me show you State's Exhibit number 98. Is this what's called an identification photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I believe there is a stipulation, if the court could read that to the jury.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the state of Florida, the defendant and his attorney hereby stipulate the following. The body examined on February 27, 2012 by Dr. Shipping Bio, bearing the medical examiner case number of 12-24-043, is that of Trayvon Benjamin Martin.
And Dr. Bao, I know you talked about the gunshot wound entrance was from the front and it was straight to the heart. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Okay, please keep your questions or comments to me, not to each other.
the State's Exhibit number 96, and I apologize, it should be actually 95. I guess, is this, the heart would be directly behind this gunshot wound, or where would it be if you were looking at this photograph right here, State's Exhibit number 95?
No, I cannot tell from this photo.
Okay.
We removed the skin, removed the rib. At that point, we saw the pericardial sac. We cut the pericardial sac, then we see the heart.
Okay.
So you cannot tell.
So you can't tell from this photograph itself, but it would be, in other words, the
Yeah,
gunshot
you cannot
wound.
tell from this photo say that the bullet went through the heart. You have to open the body to see that.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Let me have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Cross.
We need to take a short recess.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a 10-minute recess. Please put your notepads face down on the chair and follow Deputy Jarvis back into the jury room. Just 1 minute. Dr. Bout, you're free to walk around for the 10 minutes we're in recess, but you cannot discuss your testimony with anybody.
Okay, should I leave this here? Or?
You can leave it there. It'll be fine there. All right, thank you. Court is in recess for 10 minutes. Be seated. Are we ready to bring the jury in?
Please, sir, yes.
All right, let's go ahead and bring them in. That's fine, thank you. Please be seated. Mr. West, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Morning, Dr. Bell.
Good, thank you.
If I could walk you through some of the steps that you took in performing the autopsy in this case, please, in a similar fashion to what Mr. De La Rionda did, so we'll sort of keep on track, if we might.
Yes.
And setting the stage a little bit, when you prepare to do an autopsy, you use technicians to assist you, is that correct?
Yes.
And in this instance, you had two technicians, correct?
Yes.
Priscilla Feller and Ben Dorton?
Yes.
And each of them had a specific role.
Yes.
Would you tell the jury, please, what the role was for each of those assistants?
Ben Dalton helped me to do autopsy. Priscilla Feller, she helped me to write down the fact during the autopsy, and also she put all the evidence together because she had the clean hand. Ben Dalton and me, we do autopsy. She put all the evidence together because she had the clean hand. The Priscilla, Ben Dalton and me write down what I tell her autopsy to write down. I would say there is defect between fifth and sixth ribs. She will write it down. The Priscilla will write down what I tell her to write down. I would say there is defect between fifth and sixth ribs. She will write it down.
Before you get to that point, though, of course, there has to be a preliminary inspection.
Yes.
And the bag is opened, and you see the individual there in the manner in which they were transported from the other location.
Yes.
And in this instance, there were no plastic bags around Mr. Martin's hands. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And you're familiar with that term?
Yes.
And it's a crime scene investigation type technique where if there may be blood evidence or other kinds of evidence on the hands,
yes,
then they can be just literally put in a plastic bag and sealed?
There's no plastic bag on the hand. There's just the body bag.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that
It's a body bag.
Trayvon Martin's hands did not have those plastic bags that sometimes accompany a body from the scene of the incident to the medical examiner.
Actually, you cannot use plastic bag on the hand. It is the standard. It is the right practice that every time you should use paper bag instead of plastic bag on the hand. And the body is different story.
Well, let's talk about the hands just for a moment.
Okay.
Because I'm assuming that we saw a sequence here with the evidence photos of the way that Mr. Martin's body was presented to you and to your staff.
Yes.
And there were no paper bags on the hands.
Yes.
Which meant that they were not put on the hands at the crime scene, the scene of the incident.
Yes, they did not do that.
And you are familiar with that procedure.
Yes.
And the purpose of it is to preserve the integrity of any evidence that might be located on the hands.
Yes.
You would have shown a photograph of that, I take it.
Yes. If hand was bagged,
Right.
we will take the photo before the bag will be removed.
Mm-hmm. And in this instance, am I correct that Mr. Martin's body remained at the scene prior to it being transported by the livery service for about 3 hours?
I do not have that information.
Don't you have the notes, I'm sorry, from your investigator that went there?
I did not go there.
Right, but do you have the notes that she would have kept about her arrival time and the time?
Yeah, I do. I do have the note.
When her name is Tara Malfers, Tara Clark, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Same person.
Yes.
And what time did she get there?
In the narrative she wrote, she arrived.
I don't want a narrative reading. I'd like you just to tell me what time did she indicate that she got there.
Because this is not my writing. I just read it. It is not my evidence. It is not my opinion. It is other people's reading. So I just tell you that
These are notes that Ms. Malfers would have made in connection with the work that she did on behalf of your office.
yes.
And
it is not part of the autopsy report.
Correct, but you have access to these notes. In
Yes,
fact, you
right
have,
here. I
you
read
have
to
them
you.
with you.
Yeah, I cannot remember these numbers.
Agreed.
Yes.
The question, though, precisely is, what time did she get there?
Approximately 21:44 hours means 9 p.m. 44 minutes.
Mm-hmm. The incident had occurred around 7:15.
In the notes here, she said,
Well, you can use that as a frame of reference. There's lots of evidence that the event occurred around 7:15.
I asked the
So,
witness be allowed to answer the question and respond to the question.
Okay, he may do so.
okay.
so
If you want to, you can read the note.
no, the question is
This
this.
is not my note.
I-
Could be wrong. I'm under the oath, right? If I give you wrong information, it's perjury. You
Yes.
understand?
Uh,
Do you understand? I'm under the oath.
Yes,
I
sir.
cannot give you wrong information. So it is not
Here's-
my note.
Let me ask this question to try to clear that up.
Okay.
Assume, for your answer,
Yes.
that the event occurred about 7:15.
That's what you say. I don't know. I really don't know the
Please.
information, the timeline at the scene.
Yes. Please assume that the event occurred about 7:15.
Okay, if you are right.
If there is any dispute in that, the jury can resolve that
Okay.
at some point.
Okay.
So just as a rough time frame, 7:15 is when the event occurred, correct? For our purposes.
I don't know.
I'm not asking you to agree. I'm just asking you to assume that that's when the event occurred.
Okay, you can assume that.
Yes. And Ms. Malfers arrived at the scene about 2.5 hours later, correct?
I don't know. Again, I do not have the information. You cannot ask me yes or no question.
Based upon her notes that are part of your record,
Okay.
she says that she arrived at the scene at 21:44.
Yes.
That's
this is
about
right here.
That's about 10:15, and that's
Okay.
about 2.5 hours after the event, which we have assumed for our purposes occurred at 7:15.
Okay. It's not yes or no. I just say okay.
And that in her notes she left at about 10 minutes after 10.
I did not see that on my note. So
Do you have the notes that she made in connection with the case that are in? Oh, if I could approach the witness, please.
Yes, you may.
Dr. Bell, let me direct your attention
okay.
to this.
This is what I have. You may have different things. So
No, that's the same.
okay.
Right here. Cleared the scene at approximately 22:10.
Yes.
That's TSM, that's Ms. Malfors.
Yes. Right.
So she left about 10 after 10.
Yes.
So if we're assuming for the moment that the event occurred about 7:15, it was just about 3 hours that Mr. Martin's body was at the scene.
Yes. Okay.
And at least to some degree, unprotected from the elements. Correct?
Objection, improper
I
statement.
don't know.
Factual basis for that.
Okay. Please rephrase your question.
You cannot ask me a question. I don't know. If it's yes, it's wrong. If no, it's wrong.
Well, you know the hands weren't bagged, correct?
Yeah, that's the one I know because I did not see that.
Uh-huh. And you know the body was at the scene for about 3 hours.
I don't know
Based
exactly.
upon-
All I know, his body was at the scene for some period of time. I do not have timeline. I do not prepare
wouldn't you
to say
have-
this here.
Wouldn't you have reviewed the notes of the investigator as part of your overall understanding of the event in anticipation and preparation for the autopsy?
No, actually, it's not.
So you don't have any idea what's supposed to have happened when you do the autopsy?
All I know was in the morning, I did autopsy. He was shot, and he's dead.
Right. So you had no idea what anyone had said about what had happened the night before?
We
correct?
had, normally, I did not remember. I told Mr. Mara during deposition, I did not have any.
Let me be precise with the question.
Okay.
So you did the autopsy without any knowledge, having reviewed any information about what was supposed to have happened the night before?
I was told, again, I do not have any recall. I do not have any memory of the day of autopsy. I cannot answer your any question about that. All I hear is the notes I have. Okay.
Let me be sure I understand what
Without
you're saying.
notes, I cannot tell you any fact. Without notes, I cannot tell you any opinion.
Okay, what you're saying today and to me and to the
Yes.
jury
Yes.
is that you have no memory
Yes,
of any of the events surrounding the autopsy itself.
yes. I
that
tried
correct?
very hard.
Is that true?
It's true, 100% true. I tried.
Now, if you might let me ask...
Let me explain to you.
Just 1 second,
My
please.
objection is he's not allowed to answer the question.
Okay, we
Okay.
have to, and I've said this before, we have to allow the court reporter to take one person speaking down at a time. So if you will please, after your question, allow Dr. Bao to answer. Dr. Bao, after you have answered, wait for the next question.
Okay.
Thank
No
you. You
So,
may
I
proceed.
explained to
Thank
you. Why did
So-
it happen?
Wait, again,
I tell you why.
stop.
May I ask the question, Your Honor?
Yeah, I need to answer your first question.
Okay, Dr. Bao, please wait, there's another question. If he has not finished answering the
Yeah.
first question, he will be allowed to do so. So please wait for your question until he finishes his answer.
Okay.
Could we read the question back? Because I think it was a yes or no question.
I didn't explain to the jury why this happened. Why?
Your Honor, may the witness
Why
please...
I cannot remember anything on the day of autopsy, and other people can remember. So I did intensive study, and I tried many times myself. 2 days or a few days before your deposition, which is 9 months after my autopsy, I came to my office from 8 a.m.
I'm
to
sorry,
8
this
p.m.
is not responsive to the question.
Yeah, I explained why I did not remember. I put everything in front of me, the autopsy report,
Your Honor, would
the notes,
court
the
please
photos.
ask the witness to
I tried very hard. I cannot
respond to
remember.
the question.
Once more, we cannot interrupt each other. Dr. Bao, are you finished with your answer?
I need to explain to the jury.
Okay, but you have, so we're ready for the next question. Okay,
No.
so please allow
Okay.
Mr. West
Next
to,
question. I do not remember anything. Zero.
okay, and we
Anything
understand.
on the day of autopsy. I depend on my notes.
We understand, sir. Please stop speaking so Mr. West can ask the next question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Understanding that you have no memory of the events surrounding the autopsy,
Yeah, no old memory.
your testimony today then relies upon your autopsy report?
Yes, the notes,
Correct.
report, and the photos.
Are the notes different than the report itself?
No different.
So the autopsy report are the notes that you're talking about?
Yes.
So, as we were starting a moment ago, let's talk about the procedure.
Yes.
At what point do you become, this is generally now,
Yeah.
because I know you don't remember this one, but
Yes.
generally, at what point do you see the body?
Generally speaking, it is not a fact that every morning we have conference 8:30 p.m. 8:30 a.m. Then we start to do autopsy. If it's homicide, as in this case, we check identification. We open the bag. We
Yeah.
take photos.
May I interrupt a moment
Okay.
to ask a more precise question,
Okay.
because I don't think this is responsive.
Now we have 3 people, now I'm speaking, so it's 4 people speaking at a time. Please state your objection.
My objection is not being allowed to answer the question.
It's okay.
My objection
It's
is
my
that it's
job.
not responsive to the question, and I would like to ask a specific question.
Okay.
Wait for your next question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As part of the autopsy protocol, generally speaking,
Yes.
at what point do you see the body? Is it as soon as the bag is opened, after the body has been undressed and the clothing collected, after the initial photographs are taken, after the fingernails are scraped? At what point do you see the body?
As soon as bag open. Sometimes I open, sometimes technician open, sometimes we open together. As soon as we open the bag, we see the body.
In your autopsy report, you say the body is viewed unclothed.
Yes.
So
Let's
that's-
start from this autopsy report.
Right, and in the report you say, this is your report,
Yes.
the body is viewed unclothed, and I want to ask,
After remove the clothes, then body is unclothed.
my question is, so are you testifying that you saw Mr. Martin's body fully clothed, or did you see the body after your technicians unclothed the body and prepared the body for autopsy?
I was there the whole time. The body received in the plastic bag. We open the bag, we remove the clothes.
How do you-
But autopsy report start from without clothes. I do not describe the clothes.
How do you know you did that in this case then?
I do not know. I do that every case.
That's your regular protocol?
Yeah, that's my opinion, not the fact.
So let's talk about what happens then.
Yes.
The bag is opened,
Yes.
and then I assume the body is removed from the bag?
Yes. Our bag is removed from the body.
All right. And the body then is clothed
Yes.
and then photographed?
Yes. Photograph before we remove them.
Yes. Do you take those photographs?
Normally, I do not.
Do you know who took them in this case?
Either Ben, Dalton, or Priscilla.
And those would be the photos taken of in Mr. Martin's clothed body, correct?
Yes.
And then after those photographs are taken, what happens next?
The Ben Dalton, he would remove the clothes.
And where would you be during this?
I look at the, I don't recall what I did at the time, but generally speaking, I could look at the hand, look at the face.
But you don't know if you did in this case.
No, I did not remember.
It's possible then that Mr. Dorton would do his assignment, and that is he would remove the clothing.
Yeah, that's his job. He was trained to do that. I have full confidence he did right.
Mm-hmm. So you don't know if you witnessed any of that. You just know at some point.
I was there. I should be there.
Mhm.
I believe, without the fact, it is my opinion, I should be there.
Oh, I agree. You should have been there.
Yes.
So you're not sure if you would. You believe you were.
Yes.
And then do you know what happens to the clothing at the point that it's removed from the body?
Say it again?
Yes.
Can you repeat your question?
What happens to the clothing when it's removed from the body?
We will pack them and put in the paper bag and give to the police department.
Is that what happened in this case?
Should be.
Did it?
Should be. I told you I did not remember anything, and I need to explain to you why I did not remember and other people remember very exactly what happened 2 years ago.
If you would
I
just,
thought my brain is not too bad, so I did research about the
Your Honor,
memory.
may I ask a specific question and elicit a specific answer?
You tried. You asked me the question. I
Yes.
don't know.
What I want to know in this case
Yes.
was the clothing removed and packaged in paper bags.
I don't know, but should be. Like what do you say?
It should have been.
Yes.
And you knew that the sweatshirt was damp.
I saw it from the photo. All my memory is new memory. Okay.
So, in other words, you know from your training and experience as a medical examiner
Yeah.
that if clothing is wet,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be packaged in paper bags.
Yes.
And if plastic bags are
And
used,
actually, before we pack them, we let them dry a little bit.
did that
before we
happen
pack-
in this case?
Again, I tell you, I did not know.
Okay. So the procedure would have been
Yes.
to dry the clothing
Yes.
and then package it in paper.
Yes.
But you don't know if that's what happened here.
Yeah, this case, I do not remember. I cannot tell you anything
You do know,
beyond
though,
my notes.
you do know, though, from the photograph of the sweatshirt,
Yes.
the hooded sweatshirt,
Yes.
that it looks wet.
Yes.
So it would be inappropriate and a violation of protocol to take a wet sweatshirt and seal it in a plastic bag.
There is no plastic bag other than plastic bag carry the body.
So in other words, that you would never in your lab take a wet piece of clothing that's potentially evidence and seal it in a plastic bag.
If anybody do that, he'll be gone next day. He will be fired. Because this very basic concept for us to use paper bag instead of plastic bag. This is a rule.
It's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's no brainer. Everybody do that. I have confidence they did that.
So the clothing is removed and packaged as appropriate.
Yes.
And that would include shoes.
Yes.
You saw shoes in the photo.
Yes, our shoes.
Do you know where the shoes are? By any chance?
Now,
Mhm.
I have no idea where it is right now. When body come in, shoes is on feet.
The photograph that you saw here today showed the shoes.
Yes.
And you believe those are the shoes that Mr. Martin was wearing when his body was presented to you.
Before I come here, I spent hundreds of hours. Review the photos, review my notes. All the things I tell you today is based on my notes. It's new memory. It's not the old memory on the day of autopsy. I don't believe anybody can remember anything 2 years ago. I did research about that. The memory could be false memory, old, confused memory, recent.
Are you reading from something now?
Yeah, I read that. I typed that myself.
May I see what you're referring to, please? May I approach the witness?
Because I puzzled by that. I could not remember the thing, and other people can.
Your Honor, may the witness not answer until I've answered.
Okay.
Yes.
Show me what you're looking at.
Before this testimony, I told you I spent hundreds of hours. I typed down potential answers to your potential question. This is my notes.
May I see them, please?
I rather you do not see. This is my notes. Nobody saw that before.
Okay.
I thought it's
Dr.
mine.
Bao, if you're going to be reading from your notes, both attorneys are entitled to see what you're reading from.
Okay.
So please
No
allow him
problem.
to do so. You may approach the witness.
You want to see this one?
All of the notes that you prepared in anticipation of your testimony today.
Okay, so you will return to me as soon as possible. Okay.
Now look at those notes there.
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, perhaps it would be convenient if we made a copy for counsel. I can continue with some questioning, and then we can look at them at our leisure.
You've got people here behind you. You can make a copy if you wish.
So they can make the copy? It's my note. I typed myself. Nobody read it before.
Okay. These are not the actual report that you rendered.
No, it's my personal note. I use my own time in the evening, weekend.
Okay.
I type these
Counsel would
notes.
like to take them and sit down and look over them. You may do so and return them to Dr. Bao.
All right, thank you.
So something funny there?
There's no
Something?
question pending. Just we'll wait till there's a question, please.
Yeah, something funny in my notes.
Okay, if you're finished with the notes, if you'll please let Mr. De La Rionda look at them, and Mr. West, you may continue with your questioning.
So is this the only time you can read it? Or
I'm sorry?
is this the only time they can read it, or you're...
Yes, sir, they're going to read them now, and then they will be returned to you.
Okay.
We're close to the lunch hour, so I'm going to request that we have a copy
No,
of
you
the
cannot.
note.
It's my note.
I'm going to ask the court for a copy of these. I'm going to want to have an opportunity to review them more carefully and have an opportunity to question Dr. Val specifically about them, but I need a little time to do that. And I can proffer why, but I need that time, and I think the rules provide anything that a witness uses
Okay,
to
this
aid
is a
testimony.
speaking argument, and we can do that outside the presence of the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and break for lunch at this time. Please put your notepads face down. We'll be back at 1 p.m. During the lunch hour, please do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anybody else. Do not read or listen to any radio, television, or newspaper reports about the case. Do not use any type of an electronic device to get on the internet to do independent research about the case, people, places, things, or events, or terminology. Do not read or create any emails, text messages, Twitters, tweets, blogs, or social networking pages about the case. Do all of you understand these instructions and will abide by them? Okay, thank you very much. Please put your notepads down and follow Deputy Jarvis back into the jury room.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll give you a minute to get your file. You can state your name for the record, please, sir.
Good morning. My name Shiping Bao. S-H-I-P-I-N-G-B-A-O.
What is your occupation, sir?
I'm the Associate Medical Examiner in Volusia and Seminole counties.
And if you could just briefly tell us about your specialty, what area of practice you have, and your education background and training.
I received my medical degree in China, came to United States in 1992 when I was 29 years old to pursue American dream. I did my pathology training in Birmingham, Alabama, and finished my forensic pathology fellowship in Fort Worth, Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office. After that, I was Deputy Medical Examiner in Tarrant County, Texas for 2 years before came to Florida. I am certified by American Board of Pathology in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology. I have medical licenses in the states of Florida and Texas. I am the fellow member of the National Association of Medical Examiners.
Okay. Dr. Bao, if we could, please explain to the jury when we talk about forensic pathology what that means.
As a medical examiner in forensic pathology, I review medical records and reports from our investigators and police department and do autopsies to determine the cause and the manner of death. Also, I serve as the fact witness and expert witness in the court, such as today.
Okay. And how long have you been with your current position in the medical examiner's office in, I guess, the 7th Circuit? Is it Volusia and Seminole counties?
Yes. Our office covers both Volusia County and Seminole counties.
Okay. Can you briefly explain to the jury what an autopsy is?
Autopsy means to see for self. It is the postmortem examination of human body to determine the cause and manner of death.
Okay.
The cause of death is either an injury or disease. Injury such as gunshot wound to the head, stab wound to the chest, or blunt force trauma due to motor vehicle accident. Disease such as heart disease, cancer, or stroke. The manner of death is classified into five categories. Homicide, one person killed by another, such as in this case, Trayvon Martin was killed by another person. Suicide, one killed him or herself. Accident, such as motor vehicle accident, drowning. Natural, such as heart disease or stroke. If we do not have enough evidence to determine the manner of death, we call undetermined. Autopsy includes the identification of human body, external and internal examinations to record the disease, injury, and other evidence, plus toxicology tests.
Okay. Dr. Bao, if we could, approximately how many autopsies have you performed in your career, sir?
So far, I have done more than 3,000 autopsies, in which about 150 to 200 homicides.
Okay.
I did about 20 court testimonies or depositions. In the last 5 years, I have done about 300 to 700 cases a year.
And you, as you stated, you previously testified in Florida as an expert. Is that correct?
Yes, both
This time I tended to
Texas
witness.
and Florida.
This time I tended to witness an expert in forensic pathology.
You may so testify.
I don't have any blood here.
Okay, the objection is sustained.
Lower chest, 3/8 inch diameter, round, with soot, SOOT, with ring abrasion around wound, with stippling, also called powder tattooing. After we removed the skin, there was defect between left anterior number 5 and number 6 ribs. So the bullet went through directly from anterior to posterior through anterior pericardial sac, which is fiber tissue around the heart, through right ventricle of the heart, anterior right ventricle of the heart, through posterior right ventricle of the heart, through posterior pericardial sac. At that point, the bullet separated. The lead core of the bullet was recovered in the pericardial sac behind right ventricle. The two fragments of the jacket went right through his right lower lobe of the lung. We have 3 lobes on the right, 2 lobes on the right. The bullet went through the right lower lobe of the lung. The 2 fragments was recovered in the right pleural cavity. At that point, Trayvon Martin, I believe, was still alive. His heart was still beating. Every time his heart was beating, some of the blood will go from right ventricle to the pulmonary artery to the lung and supply his brain. I believe, it is my opinion, that he was still alive, he was still in pain, he was still in suffering.
Objection, Your Honor. That's not a relevant issue at this time.
It's
It's
relevant.
simply an emotional
Okay, just a
appeal.
second, I'm sorry, your objection is relevance? Okay, overruled.
He's in suffering, he's in pain.
Well, then I would object to speculation then.
No, it's
And
my
it's
opinion.
not-
Wait.
And
When
it's
there's
not,
an objection, I have to rule on it. Okay, so please, just wait. If counsel will please approach.
sure.
So if you'll just wait a moment. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ballard, we can move into what you did in this particular case, that you perform an autopsy on a person later identified to you as Trayvon Martin under your medical examiner number 12-24-043.
Yes.
And where was the autopsy performed, Dr. Ballard?
Where? Or
Yes,
when?
sir.
Yeah, we did autopsy on February 27th, 2012. I started autopsy at 10:30 p.m. After autopsy, I typed autopsy report, start from 4:06 p.m. I finished my autopsy report at 5:10 p.m. same day.
And was that done at the medical examiner's office in Volusia County?
Yes, in Daytona Beach.
Did you determine the cause of death, sir?
Yes.
And what was the cause of death?
The cause of death is gunshot wound of chest.
Okay. And what was the manner of death, sir?
The manner of death is homicide, meaning he was killed by another person.
If you could, tell us what Trayvon Martin's height and weight was, sir. What was his height?
I would like to present the jury how I did autopsy from the
Okay, yeah,
morning.
please.
Trayvon Martin came to my office as unidentified human body. He was not identified at the time. All we know, he was a black boy. He was shot. He's dead. There is no name, no age. The first in the morning, we did an X-ray, tried to locate the bullets or fragments of bullet. We found out he had some fragments at the lower chest. His body was sealed in the plastic bag with number 0000517. After we look at X-ray, so we opened the bag. We saw a black boy, 71 inches long, 158 pounds. He had a defect, a hole on the anterior sweatshirt with blood. Under the sweatshirt, there was another T-shirt. Again, there was blood, a defect, and a soot, S-O-O-T, soot. After we removed the clothes, we saw a defect on his left